Hey everyone, Matt here from Herbal House, and in this short video we are taking a closer look at the 4Seasons Master Controller. So currently this Master Controller is designed to work with the Helios series and the Helios Elite series, more on that in another video, and the HPS commercial fixture by 4Seasons. Soon though, in the near future, they are working on having the quantum range compatible with this and the standard ballast. So why you'd want one of these controllers is pretty much for any domestic or even commercial customers who are looking to have a sunrise sunset feature, full timing control of over 200 lights, split room control, so that's an A and B group cycle, so you could have one for your short day or your long day cycle. These controllers will really do it all to control your lights, not to mention thermal cutouts and a full set of relays for commercial application. But let's dive into that soon and show you what's in the box. Okay, so here we have the beautiful box that the Master Controller comes in. So it does have a few specs and features written around the box if you needed some light reading, however we'll crack straight into it. So just opening this up here, got your lovely user manual which has beautiful pictures and things like that to reiterate on everything I'll be saying in this video. Just throw that to the side. Nice piece of protective foam. Starting with the most important part, which is your controller. So I'll just pop that to the side here. You got your power adapter, which is going to power up the controller itself, and they do include the RJ cables that are going to connect from the controller to your lights to control them. So I'll just put those over here. Last but not least, there are two temperature sensors here. So these are going to be providing your thermal cutout feature. Obviously you don't have to use these, but they are a nice thing to have. So that covers all the content in the box. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this powered up, and I'm going to run you through the display and all the options it has within it. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just powered up the controller to show you the display and quickly run through the bells and whistles. Now, what you'll see here is the initial screen every time you touch it to wake it up. So you've got your Group A channel on the left and your Group B channel on the right. So that's just explaining what's going on there with the two channels that you're able to control with this controller. Now, to start with, we're just going to go through and configure this to get everything all happy. So just by touching the screen, it's going to ask you to unlock. So we're just going to slide across there. And we've got our 6 options. So we've got HID dimming control, your light cycle that you'll be programming, LED dimming, temperature, the sunrise and sunset feature, and configuration. So I'm just going to start in config. Alright, so in here you can set the date and the time. So this is obviously important when you're setting up a light cycle. You configure that to the current time. So once you've done that, you can also set it to 12 hour if you would prefer. You've got your sleep timeout function, so that's referencing how long the screen is going to stay on there for. Long bright simply means the screen stays on forever. You can have it so it times out in case this is in your grow space and you need it to be dark. So just going back from there, we're going to go over to temperature, and we're going to set this up. So just there's a little tick box on the right here to swap it over to Celsius. So now we're able to make more sense of the temperatures we have here. So the idea is if you set the auto dim TA, so that's referencing when we reach this temperature threshold, the lights are going to start to dim to try and offset that temperature. If the temperature continues to rise to a certain temperature, it will turn the lights off completely. So you can just tap that and set whatever temperature you are looking for. So I'm just going to leave those disabled at the moment. You can activate them if you would like, but just for the sake of this, we'll leave them off. So now that we've got the temperature threshold set, we'll just go over to sunrise and sunset. So the idea is behind the sunrise and sunset is it's going to allow you to gradually dim the lights up or down depending on where you are in the cycle. So for the startup, we can say in Group A, I want a 15-minute gradual wake up. Sunrise we'll call it, and you can hit active. So what that's going to do is it's going to give a 15-minute ramp up at the start of the light cycle and then 15-minute ramp down to the end of the light cycle. So it's a nice way to wake the plants up and put them to sleep without an abrupt change in intensity. So it's quite nice, and we will have a time lapse of that shortly. But going back here, so once we've set the sunrise, sunset, the temperature and the config, we're going to move over to the light cycle. So the idea is now that you've set the time, obviously, you can select what time you would like it to turn on, what time you'd like the cycle to go off. So the nice thing about having a Group A and Group B for a single controller means you can set Group A for a flowering cycle or a short day cycle, and Group B can be for a long day veg cycle, let's say. So you can just program those nice and easy. From there, you're going to go over to LED dimming, and here we have the actual dimming control of the light. So over here we've got a tick box to say that Group B can actually mirror Group A in terms of control. We won't do that. And you've got the setup dimming control. So 100% means 100% output on the light. Now it says it goes up to 115%. We've tested this. There's actually no difference beyond the 100% mark. It's all referencing what the LED wants to do. So for this case, I'll just show you, you can set it to 50%, confirm, and that would turn it to 50%. Now don't forget you have the master switches down here. So you've got off, so the light's actually going to be completely off. You'd switch it to on, the light turns on, and auto. So auto mode is going to be referencing the timer that you have set previously and actually cycling the light via the timer. Important to remember that. So at 50%, the light is not going to exceed 50% brightness. So quite nice to know that that is going to be the threshold. So now that we have set those up, essentially what you want to make sure is if you do have the temperature plugged in the bottom there, when you have this threshold set, so auto dimming and auto shutdown, if you hit the auto shutdown level, what will happen is in the bottom here, I don't know if you can see that, it's out of focus, but we'll show you what goes on there, which is essentially the alarm controls on the base and a set of relays. For those who are in the commercial application, you can set that up to trigger any alarms or shutdowns or warnings or anything along those lines. They're absolutely fantastic. So we're going to set this up in operation and give you guys a quick rundown of how it actually looks when it's working. Okay, so we're just here in the showroom. We've got a 640X Helios that we have set up in a tent, or it's usually always hanging here. So just thought I'd show you this actually in action. Now, the main thing to obviously note is connecting the cable from the controller to the light. So what you'll see on your Helios panel is there is an RJ port that says input. And that is, for instance, can connect to group A, because that's what we're going to be using to control it. So with the Helios series, they are daisy chainable, so what you'll see is there is an output there, and all of these lights actually include a cable to daisy chain between the output of this to your next light, to your next light, to your next light, because you can control up to 100 lights per bank. Absolutely fantastic, and that's a lot of lights for most people. So once you've got this plugged in, main thing to note is this is not going to care at all what you do on this controller until you turn the dimmer knob to EXT for external control. So what I'm going to do is just do that now. So that's set to EXT, and what we've got here is on the controller I have set this to 100%. So right now that is operating at 100% brightness, which is exactly what we want. Now I'm just going to show you real quick this, try not to drop that, where did I put it? Got the temperature sensor here, so I'm just going to plug that into the TA port, which is essentially group A temperature sensor, and that's just brought up a display on the controller showing the temperature sensor. Now I've set this for a thermal cutout at 30 degrees or 28 degrees I believe. I'll just actually check that. Nice and easy into temperature. Yeah, so at 23 degrees the light is going to start to dim down, and at 25 it's going to turn off. So really, really low, but for the sake of the video that's where we've set it. So right now it's showing 24 degrees in the yellow, which is essentially meaning that it is too hot and it's going to start dimming it down. So on the display here I can actually see it's very slowly dropping the dimmer. We're at 72%, 70%, 68%. Like so, it's dropping it down to try and offset that temperature. But if I just keep heating up this temperature probe by clasping it in my hand, we will start to see that temperature start to rise on the controller. And we've just hit 25 degrees. So it's showing it in red, and the light has turned off on a safety. Now, bear in mind when you do hit this cutout and the temperature's gone red and it's saying, hey, it's too hot, I need to turn off, that's when the relays on the base of the controller have now switched. So that would be for setting your alarm or a fan cut-in or anything along those lines to actually provide a safety or notification when something is going wrong. So that's more that's more for our commercial customers. For the domestic customer, you're more or less just going to set this up with a temperature probe and just have that peace of mind knowing that it's going to be operating when you're not there. So now that we've got to that set up, we'll show you a time lapse of this actually running with the, what we call it, the sunrise and sunset feature, so you can see that in operation. In its current edition, the sunrise and sunset feature is capped at 50% brightness. This means that during sunrise, the LED or HID will start at 50%, gradually ramping its way up through the time that you have set, and the same applies for sunset, meaning that the light will gradually ramp down to a 50% threshold or brightness before switching off. This is a current feature built into the master controllers, mainly to accommodate HID fixtures. However, we feel it is worth mentioning that this does also apply to your LEDs.